Congressman, you're still with us, right?
I am.
There you are.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Cindy in Nogales, Arizona. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi. Thank you both for letting me speak. The first thing I'm wondering is I had to spend 6 months in jail for writing a bad check. Now, here Trump is, and all, he's colluding with the Russians and whatever else. I mean, is anything going to happen to him? Also, I live half a mile from the U.S.-Mexico border, and it's just ridiculous because it stops every so often, and there's just a fence right there. And it's just so ridiculous. I can't even explain about it. And one more thing, my family owned a 25,000-acre ranch. My father had to sell it because each 25,000 acre had a tax on it. So anyway, few thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Congressman?
Sure. Well, one of the things we're trying to do on your first question is, figure out exactly, the multiple levels of where we could have legal problems with Donald Trump, whether it be in relation to the election and the interference from outside governments, whether it be the unwillingness to separate his business interests from his official interest as president and wondering what happens there, to a whole variety of other things. So, I think we're going to see lots of conflicts and controversy with this president, and we'll see if something rises to the level that we have to deal with it in a legal situation. And I think your word on the fence, ridiculous, is the best word to use because, as you can see, you live down there. For them to put up this giant fence in the middle of nowhere makes very little sense. And the fact that they're going to spend up to $40 billion potentially on this, and now they've already gone back on their promise that Mexico will pay for it. So we're going to pay for it. I mean, just think of the cuts in his budget to Meals on Wheels or the National Institute of Health, or go on down and there's many things on that list that you could be paying for instead of a giant fence or a wall that's nothing more than a mark of the ego of this president.
Kurt, listening to us on the radio in Goshen, Indiana. Hey, Kurt, what's on your mind?
Hi, this is, I'm first of all appreciate that you're letting me on air. I want to make a comment. First of all, I've worked at the same place for 35 years, and this was the first contract. I'm a Teamster. This is the first contract that our insurance didn't go up in 35 years. I hadn't lost my wages or anything from insurance this time, which is amazing. Second of all, being a Teamster, my pension is in danger. I'm in danger of losing it. Is there any bills out there to help us out?
Yeah, Kurt, thanks for your call. And, I'm very familiar with your situation with Central States and the pension fund and the problems they're having. And unfortunately, some of the solutions coming out of Congress aren't even close enough to cover that. You've been paying into that your entire life. That's part of the compensation that you've negotiated for in those contracts. And now suddenly you're going to see giant deductions coming out of it because of some situations, specifically around the contract with the largest providers and other reasons. And we've got this in other pension funds as well. I think if I can just take it a drop broader, there are some bills to try to address it, to try to see if we can get a better deal for the Central States Fund that you're specifically referring to. But I think the idea that we need to be far more cognizant of pensions and retirement, period, because I think we're getting to a point that, especially as more people are independent contractors, it could be up to 70 million people are labeled independent contractors right now in their jobs. They're almost guaranteed not to have any kind of a pension or retirement account. And if we have a tax on Social Security and we're seeing less ability to have that retirement security through people's jobs, you're going to be in a real crisis situation at some point, and you don't want to be too late to catch that crisis. So we need to do a lot more to help in this area, just across the board. Your very specific situation on your pension that you've paid in, and now you're going to see a big cut to. But more importantly, I think one of the things when we were debating the fiduciary rule, we found out that only about 1 out of every 8 people in this country has $200,000 or more for retirement, and about half the people are going to live on Social Security and the home they have, and about a third of the people just on Social Security, and that's not enough to live on, and we really need to address this issue in a much more comprehensive way.
Yeah, and the answer is not building tiny homes all over America. Judy in Friendswood, Texas. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Oh, thank you, Tom, very much. I want to thank you and Senator Pocan both for all you do for us to keep us truly informed. I really do appreciate it. My question is regarding our single-payer system, hopefully, that we will get down the road. I am completely convinced it is the right way for us to go. But I do have a concern. I live just outside of Houston, a big medical complex, there's lots of doctors. And what I'm noticing more and more as the years go by is that more and more doctors are opting out of Medicare. And it's concerning me. My own doctor opted out about 5 years ago. So, and a lot of the urgent care clinics that have been popping up over our area do not take Medicare now. So, Senator Pocan, if we can get the single-payer system in eventually, could that possibly be a problem getting these doctors on board with us?
And if I could interject something here, Judy, do you know if they're not taking Medicare or if they're not taking Medicare Advantage? Because there's a difference, and I know some doctors are refusing to take Medicare Advantage because it's provided by insurance companies who play games with the doctors, but they're happy to take Medicare because they simply write the checks.
Right. Well, unfortunately, my experience has been that they're not taking just the regular Medicare.
Regular Medicare. Okay. Congressman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that probably a little more with Medicaid than Medicare. Don't really get a lot of reports on that front. But to your central question is, if we had a single-payer system, a Medicare for all system, clearly, I think everyone would be involved because you take away the administrative costs, the advertising costs, all the other things you have with an insurance for-profit system where a lot of people are going to be skimming money off the health insurance system. And instead, that is the direct delivery system you'd have. So, I think one of the silver linings I look at is they're having complete troubles in doing this healthcare bill. And then even President Trump had to say, this is difficult for him to admit anything is difficult is difficult for him. The fact that we're now realizing that, maybe the best way is to do what Canada and most of Europe and other countries do, which is have a system where everyone automatically has a right to health care, and it's not even a debate over all these little bits and pieces we're having. Instead, it's just, understood that as a citizen of a country, you have health care because that's part of your right to citizenship. I had some Canadian Parliament members in yesterday or the day before, Tom. And it's interesting. I always like to talk to them about healthcare because even the ones who are conservative know their system is good. It's just only we try to put these stories out about how terrible it is in Canada, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, it's really quite extraordinary how I get these right-wingers on who want to debate healthcare with me, and they, in Canada, they got these long waiting lines, and we got more MRI machines for dogs. And it's absurd. I mean, Canadians love their healthcare system. It always provokes all these phone calls from Canadians who are living, Sirius XM covers Canada. We've got pretty good penetration into Canada. It always just puts them back on their heels. Steve, watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV in Brunswick, Georgia. You are on the air with Congressman Mark Pocan. Steve?
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for your program, and thank you very much, Congressman Pocan. We really appreciate this. My wife is suffering from Donald Trump PTSD. I have to deal with it every day. I just had a question for you, a couple of questions. With all the things, the violations that Donald Trump has committed already, isn't there something anyone can do? Can't someone step up to the plate? I mean, this guy has conflicts of interest all over the place. His Commerce Secretary is on the board of Bank of Cyprus, which has illegal dealings with Russian oligarchs and Donald Trump. What's going on here? I mean, how many things does this guy have? How many people does this guy have to step on before somebody stands up and say, hey, this is illegal. You can't do this. You're supposed to be the president of the United States, of all of the people, and all you're doing, it seems to be, is ingratiating himself. Isn't there anything that can be done?
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, Steve. So, a couple of things. One, I mean, part of what you have to do, just like when you're a prosecutor, you have to make sure you can present a case that you can win, and part of it is collecting the information and being able to put that together. So, while there's certainly a lot of, I think, even Adam Schiff from the Intelligence Committee said circumstantial evidence, you have to get something more solid, which is part of what we're doing and trying to collect and find these things to make sure that we can get the proper attention to these issues. But second, I say this, and I'm probably going to say this every week, Tom, on your show, but elections have consequences. And, we had a lot of people that didn't get out to vote in places like Wisconsin, where Donald Trump won by 22,000, and we had 200,000 fewer Democratic votes. Now, I would argue that perhaps the Clinton campaign didn't do the best job of talking to voters in Wisconsin who didn't get out to vote, especially around core economic issues that people talk about around their kitchen table. But we have to look at elections not as a spectator sport. We have to be directly involved in those things. And, in Georgia, there's a special election coming up. And, I think people should be watching things like that as well. But we have to be active and take on democracy very aggressively. And you have to reach out to your representatives. You have to work with organizations that are trying to affect change or block things that could happen. Those organizations with legal arms are especially important. But we are living through what happened because of an election where I think we had a lot of people who didn't come out to vote. And we're going to work on those consequences, and we're going to try to prove and get good, strong evidence to make sure that we get things taken care of, Steve. But I hope in the meantime everyone realizes we all have to step up our game. I'm part of the legislative arm of the resistance here in Washington, but you're part of the resistance in Georgia, and we've got people across the country that are part of the resistance that have to be very active.
Congressman, we just have 20 seconds to the break. I regularly promote Progressive Democrats of America, pdamerica.org, and moveToAmend.org. I think they're doing great work. Are there any progressive groups, looking at it as a congressman, that you recommend people check into?
Yeah, right now I'm very, very high on Indivisible. I think Indivisible is a great organization doing a lot of great work around the country. The PCCC, Adam Green and Stephanie and folks over there do, I think, a really strong job in getting their case out. Move On, I hate the DFA, so many that I work with that I think are doing a strong job.
Yeah, these are all great organizations, and many of them are regular guests on this program. Congressman Mark Pocan taking your calls for the hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls for Congressman Pocan right after this.